We've been looking at the epistle Titus, and the main part that we've seen so far is Titus was sent in order to do two things. First of all, to set some things in order or to kind of straighten some matters out that we are going to see later on in the book. And then he said, and I also, Titus, I'm putting you in charge of going around and putting elders, bishops, in these congregations around the island of Crete so that you can properly set them up and put the type of men they need to have as for their leadership. So we've been spending time taking a look at that, and I want to ask you as we go through and we look at these verses, and it's not that many, for those of you not been following along, not very many so far, but I want us to take a look and see what do we notice as we go through. As he said that he's going to point them in every city in verse 5, we noticed in verse 6, he's got a focus. It's on the family. And then in verse 7, it was a focus, but it was traits he does not have. So it was negative kind of things that he does not have. And I want you to think about what he has done before we move into verse 8 this evening, about how he's having him look, and as he's talking to Titus, and he wants him to evaluate these men. He started with the traits that are family traits. First of all, how is he with his wife? How is he with his children? And to see from that the spiritual traits that he demonstrates, the character traits for how he is interacting in those capacities. So that as we go through, it's this first thing that you can kind of take a first good look, and everyone kind of knows, we're going to look at elders, and the first thing, well, you look over the congregation, and the first thing you do is he married, does he have children? And at least one of them been baptized? That's the third thing, right? So we can get to believing it. That's what we just look around. That's what we say. That's a very external and really physical way of looking at what should be spiritual qualifications. But that's kind of how we start. But he's pulling them in from then to say, okay, what has we got here that you can see visibly how he interacts? But then as you looked in and saw in verse 7, it were all these different traits to pay attention to his life, to make sure you never see any of these kind of things. So when he went through and started looking at them, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, all of these things he's saying, pay attention to, and say, does he have a problem here? Or to any of these, are you seeing any evidence of potential problems? And then we also flipped it around, as I think it's important to do. And where is the evidence positively that he has a positive way of life in demonstrating these things, so that you can see the contrast? Sometimes we'll look and say, well, does he have these negative things? No, don't ever see that. Now, I've only ever seen him on Sundays and Wednesdays in the assembly, and I've never seen him take a drink. You've also only seen him in the assembly, so the chances are pretty low, right? So let's be honest about what we're looking at here. Is he's looking at things that exist in life, and we're going to have to know people in life and observe people in life. Because I got news for you. Elders have to deal with real life matters. With real down-to-earth people having problems, and hopefully helping people in very difficult situations kind of life. This is why these kind of things matter. Because it shows that they have an area of control and understanding in these kind of matters that helps them be better suited to deal with issues and problems and to be able to help people through them. So we looked already then and saw all these negatives and what they were. And I will remind you before we leave it that he had said blameless twice. First with the idea of the family, and then he repeated it, same word, in verse 7, which I think is indicative of, here is what I'm looking at generally speaking, but it is this this idea, not called into question, no question about his character, his qualifications based upon family, and no question about his qualifications and character based upon these things. But now we're going to move into verse 8, and we're going to see they are positive qualities. And that part, I think, is pretty clear. It's obvious. Go ahead and read it. But hospitable, a lover of what is good, sober-minded, just, holy, self-controlled. All of those are positive. And the others are not this, not this, not this, not this. Here it is this, 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 this. I want you to have, they need to have these characteristics. What else besides that? So I'd like to take all the easy answers off the table and give you the hard questions. It's a whole lot more fun for the teacher if I do that. So what else do these have in common? They're all positive, but if you just kind of take in a deeper look at these things, what do they share as a trait? What is the nature of them? And you can look and see what we saw above for maybe see some differences. They are opposites. They're not direct opposites, but they are related opposites. We're going to see that there are actually certain things, and it's not just, he doesn't want to just say, don't have these things. We've got positive things. It's not necessarily opposite, but it is very different, and that's what I'm wanting to get at. Okay, they all have aspects of spiritual maturity. Yes. And the first thing I want us to do, I'm not done with this question yet, so keep your hands ready. The thing that sometimes we look at when we talk about elders' characteristics and qualifications, and you'll come to a passage like this, it says, well, everybody needs to have those. Those are just qualifications that except for that you don't have to be married, you don't have to have children, but everybody has to have those. You're supposed to have those. And I like to say, no, that's good. I'm glad you recognize that everybody should have those. So what makes these qualifications? It's the difference between should and does. We're not looking for people that should have these characteristics. We're looking for people that do have these characteristics. That it's a reality in their lives, not just a potential. Does everyone understand what I just said? We're not looking for potential. We're looking for actuality. When he's going around, he's asking, does this kind of character currently exist in this man? Not could he one day be this type of person? I can look out there and I see most people, sure, yeah, yes. How many do you have right now? Okay, not so many, right? Don't have to, but you're on your way. Okay, potential is not what he's looking for here. He's looking for presently in life and clear to what he's doing. So we need to make sure that that's what we see. All right? Yes. Yes. Okay, I got a question. Follow it then. Okay, ready? Are you ready for it? All right. I like your attitude. That's good. Take a good look around the room. Stare into people's eyes. Say, there's a sober-minded person. There's a sober-minded person. Can you tell by looking? Come close. You know, you just doubted yourself on that one. What do you have to do? What do you have to do? And you're actually helping me get to where I need to get on this, which is why I did the follow-up. Go ahead, Phil. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got characteristics that are faithfulness and are spiritual. So they're something that came from God, They've been learned, developed, are traits of maturity spiritually, and that therefore have been there for a while and exhibited faithfulness. Now let me add this one other element. These are internal traits. To see them, look at these words: self-controlled, holy, just, sober-minded, a lover of what is good. Even the word hospitable at its core is about, when it says is hospitable or given to, it's about the internal attitude. What's been focused on each one of these is a way in which you think about others and about things and about the church and about souls. That's what these all share. And you look at what he just said last week as we went through verse 7. And as he's looking at the external world and he sees all of these kind of things as being problems. Why would I want to have an association with that? Or over here, that associates me with the world. These are characteristics that are going to associate with faithfulness with God. Why? Because the nature of them, but that has to start at a core inside way. Every single one of these, you cannot develop on the outside. To take a good look at these, the closest one would be hospitality. But as far as a core word, you can't. You're looking at developing attitudes, not just behaviors. Thought processes, not just things we do. And this matters, and this is why I want to tie it in with the faithfulness and the spiritual. Is we are doing it wrong when in chasing after growth, we spend our time chasing the external appearance of maturity rather than developing the heart and soul of maturity. You see, it's easier to chase the externals. It's more visible. It seems like it's a quicker win because you can kind of imitate the external. Whole lot. You can't really imitate the internal because you can't get in. If I want to find out, okay, oh, this is a man this seems like a really just man. What do I imitate to get there? Well, the imitation is actually having to happen inside the way you think, which is why it has to develop from the Word over time in faithfulness. But now that doesn't mean it's not manifested. If these things were not manifested, which is where we also have to go, they couldn't be qualifications because Titus wouldn't be able to notice the difference, right? So there have to be these characteristics that every single one of them in some way at their core is internal motivation. Every one of them needs to begin with an internal motivation, not external motivation. And I wanted you to get this context of these before we go into them as individually. It's being the internal motivation that is what's key to being mature. External motivation is when you have to have someone on you all the time to get you to do the right thing. Right? This is where when children are young, you have to, mostly young. Y'all smile a little bit because I know you. I will talk to you. Okay. So, when you're young, you have to go out here and say, okay, we're going to have to deal with this because it needs a little external motivation, and sometimes that's a cookie, and sometimes that's a little bit of attention on the backside. Okay? External motivation. But that's not what your goal is. You're wanting the goal to be internal motivation, where they come to understand these are the right and the best things to do for them, and they're intrinsically the good things to do. The same thing is true when you're looking at a spiritual babe going into a mature Christian. is as you grow, one of the things you're trying to change is that where that motivation becomes more and more internally driven and intrinsic to do the right things and to be closer to God. That's why in 1 John chapter 4, it says that perfect love casteth out fear, for fear has thought of torment. It's a movement from fear, which is some idea of a very harsh external motivation. Something bad's going to happen to me. God's going to get me. I'm going to go to hell, so I need to obey the gospel. To love, which is, I care so much about God and all that he's done for me. I want so much to be with him in heaven that is plenty motivation for me to do the things I want to do. It's going to take to get there and do right. Now, there are other motivations in between. Sometimes it's the have-tos. I have to be there. Sometimes it's you do it out of a sense of duty. You're saying, okay, all right, well, I get to go to heaven. There you go. So it's reward. Reward is better, but it's not all the way there to where it is love based upon now. It's not external to me, but it's coming from me, myself, because of who I am, of where I want to do. Right? So I want you to see that, because that's at the core of all these characteristics. And so that's why you're looking for what we've had described as a spiritually mature, faithful man. But we have to understand the reasons how someone can get there, what it takes, as we look at these kind of characteristics. Okay, go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, is that some people need to be told, hey, and the situation there was there was a greater difficulty, suffering, some problems going on, and therefore hospitality was going to be important to help people through these problems, and not everyone's used to it. You're growing through the process. Here he doesn't need to add the without grumbling, because that's not even on their radar of grumbling about it. It's just who they are, what they do. Okay, now, with all of that, which I think is important background and consideration, let's take a look at these words. And we're going to be seeing both the core meaning of it, but also let's talk about what we're looking for in life. Okay? So let's start then with, he says, but hospitable. What does it mean to be hospitable? That means you're someone who enjoys going to the hospital. Hospitable. Same root word in English. Okay. Showing care. The reason why those are connected, by the way, it's showing care for people. You show care in a hospital. Hospitable, you're showing a different kind of care. That's why those are connected. Okay. This word, though, is a compound word. It means, okay. Thank you. It's like you've heard this before. It's a compound word that is philos, which is friend or love, right? But it's not agape love. It's the love of relationship. We have things in common. We do things together. We get along. That love, philia. And the word xenos, which you might have recognized, stranger. So it's a love of strangers. And the idea is, you got a word that means being a friend to strangers, or treating, a lot of ways to look, treating strangers as friend, or turning strangers into friends. All of those are at the core idea of hospitality. Now, I go into that because notice it is relationship oriented as a word. Everyone follow that? What did I not say was part of this inherently? cleaning up the house and making a huge meal. You can be hospitable without those things. Now, those are nice, and that's one way to show hospitality. My thing is that we've roped in a Southern hospitality, American way of thinking, and we don't even try because we don't want to go all out, right? I don't want to have someone over the house unless I can cook them a 5-course meal, and if I haven't had a professional service over to clean, and if I haven't done that, then there's no way that there's any way I need to have anybody in my home or can take care of them. Among other things, that says we are really lacking in creativity because we can only come up with one way to try to be a friend to somebody. What are some other ways to be hospitable than that? Again, that is an excellent way. It's important. As a matter of fact, the benefits of doing that, of having someone in your home, is so welcoming, and it's disarming. Right? It is disarming because you're showing a part of you to people. But go ahead. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Yes. No. That's right. That's why I'm glad you got that about the nature of the attitude, because let's think this through about different ways that we think about hospitality. For example, if we come down to it's an attitude toward people you do not know. A lot of times we'll talk about hospitality and we interpret that based upon how we treat everybody who's in our in crowd. So if you have people in your in crowd over to your home, then you're hospitable, even though you made sure not to ask Sister Susie over. Oh, there's no Sister Susie here. Okay, you don't want to make Sister Susie mad, but you don't have Sister Susie because she's just a killjoy and complains about everything, and she's going to go around and checking for dust all the time. Okay, so we're not going to do that. No, the whole idea here is there's someone you don't know walks in the door. Here, do they have a place to sit next to you? And I don't mean, is there a place available next to sit? We got places available. I'm saying, are you willing to say, oh, it's great to have you with us. Would you like to come and sit with me? Why? I'm just treating them like a friend, and I don't know them. Or there's someone that is needing something. Now, I want to be careful on this because we don't want to get into the idea of that the Good Samaritan means we all need to empty our wallets every Sunday on the way to church. Okay? Because that's not what that is about. But it's about a willingness to care for people, right? The idea of compassion. And in that recognizing that this person could use something right now. Sometimes, you know how many people in a congregation could just use a friend? And they could use a friend in the congregation. And then we'll say, well, I don't know why people just going everywhere else. It's because you don't ever get to know them. So there's an aspect to the hospitality that says, here's someone I don't know. I'm willing to get to know. And in the meanwhile, I want to treat them as someone that could one day be a good friend. And to have that kind of attitude that is a welcoming attitude to people that opens them up, but that comes from within, because what now, going back to our original idea, what does it take within you to do those kind of things? All the things we just described. Visitors are over. You want to go out to eat with us? Love to get to know you better. What does it take within you Because that's what an elder needs to have. Hospitable. You know, and not every elder is going to have a job that's going to make it possible for him to just shell out the big bucks all the time to everybody that comes through. But you can show hospitality in a number of ways. And being company, getting to know people, showing people that they're valued, that they're interesting, and that they have a home when they're around you is important. Hospitable. I also point out that this is something that a man can do. Sometimes, you know, sometimes we think, okay, we're going to take the hospitality, and okay, that's great, we're going to delegate to this wife. You take care of the hospitality. Now, if we're talking about stuff in the home, guess what? She's going to have a big role to play in that. But he needs to have a heart for it too, that shows his participation in hospitality in different ways. It'll be different, right? I mean, if I really care about people, am I going to be the one cooking for them? Bad idea. Just say, bad idea. That's what ordering it and takeout is for, right? They're for people like me, because I care about people. I want them to survive the meal. Yes. It is about approaching people too. It is not just about. Now this is hard because you say, because it's harder for some people to approach people than others, right? I don't see the girl good test is, do we have any extroverts here? Extroverts, raise your hand. Extroverts, okay. You people got some problems. Okay. Yeah. Everybody says you are. So, but introverts need to be hospitable too. It will be, but it's going to be shown a little bit differently, okay? But the heart needs to be the same, and that means, though, I would say your personality is not an excuse not to do what God says. Right? So we have to make some effort sometimes to say, I'm going to try to do this, and we're going to make this effort here. And sometimes you have to do workarounds because, you know, someone says, well, our house is too small to host something. There are other ways. We'll find other ways. I've said we need to get creative so that the heart can come through. And we need to respect the heart more than just an external kind of manifestation that can be copied by anybody. The heart's the one that matters more, doesn't it? Okay? So let's make sure that we're looking at those things in people. That was just the warm-up for the next one. A lover of what is good. Guess what? We have a 2-for-1 because when it says a lover for what is good, this is the same prefix. The word we just left with, philoxenon. Philoxenon. This is philographo, which is to love good. In the same way you love a stranger, you also need someone who loves good. Now, there's more than one word for good in the New Testament, in Greek. They're very close. I don't want to give the wrong idea, very close. One is the idea of closer to being, tends to have the external in mind. Not that it denies the other, but it's beautiful. Isn't that's beautiful. You can mean that in a lot of different ways. And so some really good moral things can still be called beautiful. This is the word from where, you ever known anyone named Agatha? Agathos. Good. It's more of the internal that, what is good? Now, what does it mean to love good? What does it mean? And then, what is it we're looking for in life that someone clearly does this? That this is where their heart is? How do you detect this? Because Paul says you can. But we have to figure out, and first of all, what it is, and then go from there to figure out what it looks like. Love good. Good things. Things that are intrinsically, morally good. Which is to say, the things that are in line with God's character. Right? Right. Okay. Now the problem is, there's a problem, is we're trying to look at what's not there. He wants us, yes, you're going to need to do that, but you got to also look at, but what's there? What do you really love? What matters to you? Good things. What is the difference in how we react as far as in situations where the things that really get you excited, we're talking about good things. When you get excited about a baptism, just a bursting at the seams love for that person, and you don't get any gain out of that. You're not getting the gain, but you love the good. When you're looking around and you're seeing other people really doing what God wants them to do, and they're growing and they're learning, you see things happen, it doesn't matter where it is, and you hear that good news, and it's just, you want to tell everybody. This was so good. That you love good. You love good, spiritual, moral things in your life. And that this is what you want to have more of, and what you appreciate more. Now, what are you looking for then for that person? Okay. Okay. Okay, no, good. I like where you're going on this, but I want to get another layer on it. Is that you got someone that they're going to be involved and they're doing good things, and that there is absolutely no gain from it. That's not why they're doing it. That's, what do we say about it? It's internal. It's internally motivated. They're doing this because they love doing good. They love the good. And that just that part of it is going to shine through in their interactions with people, that they're not pulling around at all the externals, but at this is just such a good thing. And that's becomes who they are, and they do this no matter what, because that's what they love. This is what they enjoy. It's what they're friendly with. They have a relationship with, in the sense of this is what they want to be around. And so that's what they put in their life, and that's what they have from their life, because that's what they care about. Is you care about good things, and you care about the good in people. You care about the good things will happen to people. And you see this in Scripture, for example, in ways we'll apply it a little more broadly, but like something like Romans chapter 12, verse 15, that you weep with them that weep, but what do you also? You rejoice with them that rejoice. Is that the good is just there, and you love that. When you see someone, I kind of get around to this. Can you imagine feeling kind of upset when someone's was just baptized? They're just trying to make me look bad. Well, who'd that just become about? I just made someone else's decision to do what God says and obey them, to get forgiven so that they can go to heaven, and I made it about me. That's right. There's an unselfish quality to this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I don't think we can say that here. It's not that that's not going to be true of this man, because clearly the characteristics that are given at the beginning of verse 9 of Romans 12 and moving forward are all characteristics you also want for an elder. I just don't think it specifically would fall into quite the same category. The way in which he thinks and is caring for people, we're about to get to a word about thinking, but it's not the same idea. Because the difference is there's an aspect of shared and unity of everyone. These are characteristics that are necessary for someone who is leading people. So they're going to be rooted in the same things, but yet the nature of the quality of what's required of someone to do it is actually, there's an intensity level to it that is just more when there's responsibility and leadership involved. So if we're going to think the same things, that the emphasis there is on what is being thought. Here, it's about somebody that is not just the thinking of it, but that someone who has made good his constant companion. In the same way as he's willing to make a stranger a companion, this is someone that everywhere he goes, he brings good with him. And that's what he is doing. What can I do good? In my interaction, how can we go about this where you see good? And it is a good, remember when we talk about good in a biblical context, it's important too, so we make a distinction. I think this may be part of where we sometimes lose it. Is in Exodus 34, Moses asked to see God. God says, no one can see me and die. But that's where he put him in the cleft of the rock. And in some way, it's this beautiful language of anthropomorphism, but put his hand over him, covering him, and going by, and then after he had passed, taken away so he could see just that back glimpse. As it says, the goodness. You can see that little part of my goodness. Remember when Jesus, he's approached by good master or good teacher. And Jesus' response is, there's no one good but God. That's where we're talking about the nature of the quality, that there is a moral quality and spiritual quality in terms of character that is opposed, for example, in Romans 11, verse 22, the goodness and the severity of God as being at opposite ends. So that nature of that goodness of what you love is all the things that would make you approachable, kind, caring, and be interested in others because of what's in others' interest. Good. The goodness of God and why Jesus was good. It's a character quality just about of his morality in his life. But also, again, his outlook and motivation. That good is motivating, Victoria. Yes, absolutely. It means, and I thank you for that, because it means that you've got someone who understands God and loves everything about God and the goodness of God. Instead of trying to have God that is manipulatable to what I want from him, I love God as he is and for the goodness he exhibits, and that I love that and want that to be who I am. Right. Right. Yes. Okay, yes, and I'll illustrate this, and then we'll close. Do you ever have someone that you got to know and you just loved them so much, you couldn't wait to introduce them to everybody else you knew? Oh, stop. But I was thinking about once I met Tracy, I wanted to introduce her to everyone. And that's what you're talking about in terms of at my side, close, love, relationship, and that's what he is, good. And it's just the nature of you walk in. Would you, you want to meet this? Oh, have you got this going on? You know what I learned the other day? That you just love the good that you've seen that God has placed before you in his written word, to tie it into verse 9, though we're not there yet, in people, in life, in thought, Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, all of these things, so that we actually learn to look for people and to see in people their motivation that is both toward people and toward something that the abstract of the things that please God and are most like him and from him. And that this combination, people I don't even know, I want to know. And the good I do know, I really want to know, and I want everyone else to know, especially the people I just met. Because I love both of them. And he put those two back to back. It's positive characteristics, internal motivation that elders need to have.